Hello everyone, welcome back to PJ Meets the Pros program today. Today we are going to invite the jewelry artist Mima. She's going to talk about her jewelry design freelance experience and also as an artist how to apply for the grant. Are you ready? Let's get started.
Well, hello to everybody, first of all, and thank you for inviting me to have this talk. My name is Mima Pejoska. I work with jewelry in a lot of different aspects and fields. And I'm here to answer some of your questions.
Great, I have a list of questions for you.
It's almost 2.5 or 3 years that I've been working for Custom Made. It's an American company, but I work online. I mean, my position is a design lead, which means I connect the buyers with the manufacturers, with the designers, and oversee the whole process. I use Upwork, so I do more or less like tenured freelance, if you can call that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really exciting. I have the freedom to travel a lot. Well, I think the first thing I will tell everybody is that it's really easy to be on Upwork. I know a lot of people have some barriers or fears if it's going to be complicated, how is it going to be with the payment, but just think of it as a Facebook that pays you. I mean, it's that simple. So I got on Upwork a couple of years ago when I came back to Macedonia after finishing my MFA, and I wasn't really sure if I want to do digital or computer designs because I always felt I want to work more with my hands. Skilled at 3D modeling. I just took a couple of classes, a couple of months of Rhino classes, and I knew a couple of basic things, but not really so I can charge for that service. And my first clients were horrible, projects were good, and then I realized it's my fault because I put a really low price for my work. So, I mean, it's not surprising that people who's $10 or $5, I don't know how much for a project or an hour, think that the quality is not that good. So after getting a lot of bad projects, I decided, even though I'm not that skilled, I'm going to pretend to be really experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to increase my hourly rate. So I started getting really interesting jobs. One of my first clients was a Canadian company that were designing modular smart bands, and I applied, I got in, and I had no idea what's a modular smart band. But I ended up designing for them really cool stuff, and my works ended up being published in Time magazine even.
Right, that's always the right attitude. If you have the fear and then you reject everything, then you're not gonna learn, things.
Well, first thing, I believe it's to be really precise about what your skills are. Not to write too much about yourself, but even just like bullet points that are really eye-catching help the client choose you. And it never hurts to stand out with a weird portfolio or something very unique. But I would suggest pay a lot of attention how you price your work. I made a lot of mistakes pricing projects for a fixed price and ended up working for something for 4 months that initially it was agreed to be 3 months, but the client wanted some changes and more changes and more changes. Now the only type of work I do is paid by hour, and that includes email or researching online. So, I mean, all of that is work, and it should be charged for. No, I just use Rhino.
Mm-hmm.
Just Rhino. I always say that. I think I tried Matrix a couple of times, but just Rhino fits my teeth better. Yeah, a lot of times I've used it just to visualize space. Even when I was renovating at home, I would model my furniture and everything, so I would see if it's too big, too crowded, this and there. I just like using Rhino because it gives you a different perspective of what can be done. When you work with your hands, you think, okay, so I have silver, I can melt it, I can pierce it, I can do this and this. So you already know your possibilities, and they're a little bit limited.
Right.
But when you work in Rhino, you don't think what's possible because everything is possible. And after you make it, you can think, okay, how can I actually bring this to physical form?
Right.
Am I going to print it or cast it or do something?
Right.
So it really lets your mind open up to new things. Well, yeah, like I said earlier, I really was not attracted at all to to digital designs, to CAD modeling. But ever since I got on Upwork and I started doing small projects and then bigger projects, with every new project I would get, I would learn so much. And it was just because, okay, so I signed a contract for this job, I need to finish it somehow. So you will search for a lot of different options how to do it. And basically that's how I learn. I'm self-taught.
That's great. I know you been traveling a lot. You do some art in the residency and writing some grants. Would you like to share like how easy or difficult or what need to be considered when you apply for a grant?
Well, I think applying for a grant is more or less the same difficulty level as applying for a scholarship. So before I got the Fulbright scholarship to study in the United States, I think I had 5 unsuccessful years of sending applications to so many schools. But after so many applications and rejections, I finally learned the tricks. And the trick is to, first of all, make sure what you're writing fits with their expectations. We always forget that. I mean, the grant givers or the school will say, we're looking for XYZ, but when we write the application, we tend to write about our personal desires, and sometimes they don't match. Or even when I was applying for the Fulbright, I think I remember what was the exact thing I said that made them really interested in my work. So I was designing jewelry, but I graduated from the faculty of anthropology here, and I was interested in bonsai, and I wanted to apply there for an artist in residence program. And in my grant application, I actually mixed those 3 things together. Seeing bonsai as a craft, filigree as a craft. Different cultures, they both have tools, they both deal with similar matters, and they're both somehow an appreciation of nature. And I think that sparkled that interest, that I'm not only an anthropologist and going to study anthropology. They want to see how much you can contribute to the field. It sounded very conceptual, and at first I didn't think anybody would give me money to do that because it didn't really have an exact expected result. It was an open-ended project. So the whole idea was to kind of open a dialogue and see how different people experience different objects around us, especially jewelry, but not in all cases jewelry. So it all has to do with how you approach the pieces, what kind of history the piece has, what kind of value it has, what's your surrounding. So I was really interested how people interact with pieces, and I did it sort of like an experiment. I took 3 very different jewelry pieces. One of them was my design brooch. It was a crochet stainless steel piece, very gentle, very fragile. One of them was a filigree button that was 300 years old and belonged to my grandmother. She wore it on her wedding dress long time ago. So something with historical value. And the third one was just a really cute but very simple $2 necklace I bought in a store. These 3 pieces are going to travel the world. Some of them would take photos wearing it, posing with it, or I don't know, just different occasions putting it on their body. But some of them would write poetry to the pieces. It's just a different type of interaction. So the project was very successful. It went on for a year, and then I applied for another grant, so it kept on going a little bit more. But the whole point was, when I was writing this, so it's a lot about philosophy of how we interact. It's a lot about anthropology, how we experience things. So it didn't really have to do anything with what they were looking for. And by releasing these pieces to travel for a year, it's actually an ongoing dialogue between so many different cultures. And it's something that can continue, you know, even after the project ends, you will have that personal experience to share with others. A new dialogue will open, and you know, you will maybe even start to look at things differently. It sounded really exciting, and especially because it's not a week or 2, but it's actually 4 months where you can really experience in depth the life there, the culture, the type of work, and of course course, learn a lot about the jewelry they're making. I didn't really have set expectations what I'm gonna do, but it ended up being really intense. At first, scary intense, but we did and learned so much. We made jewelry, we made so many business contacts. So it was a really, really amazing experience. I didn't devote myself 100% to the residency because I also wanted to experience Asia. It was the first trip for me to Asia, and it was just gorgeous. It was really worth it, and I recommend it to everybody. Well, we were obligated to at least teach a couple of workshops, to share some skill that we know in the studio there. And aside from that, create a line or two or whatever we want, just a new jewelry collection using their studio and the tools and everything. So it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you get there, you see how many possibilities there actually are. So there's so much to do there, so much. And even when we talked to the previous residents there, first thing they said was really, really plan your time well because it's going to fly by so fast. I think it's definitely doable for somebody who wants to do it and who wants to dedicate themselves to that.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I didn't like a lot of aspects of being a solo artist. Like as much as I love designing and exploring new materials and concepts and everything, I just hated some of the marketing and, doing your own finance, taxes, paperwork for selling abroad, and especially especially working alone in a studio, it's just not really me.
Mm-hmm.
So I do really love my job at custom work now,
mm-hmm.
Custom made. So I treat that as my 9-to-5 job, even though it's not 9-to-5. And whenever I have the inspiration, I just go to my studio or my little bench here, and I do a line or two or just a couple of pieces just for myself, no pressure for selling and so on. And
mm-hmm.
from time to time, I do apply for artist in residence programs, which is awesome because then I can really give myself into developing one strong concept and see if I can get contact with some contemporary jewelry galleries. Yeah, so I know it's really easy to somehow subconsciously or in another way to start following trends, what's sellable, what's easy to sell, or what's cheap and quick to make. And I know we all do that sometimes if we need to make money, but I would really strongly suggest you follow whatever it is you want to do, even if it does seem like something that's not going to be sellable anywhere, or it's too expensive, or it's too weird or something. Always experiment.
Sorry that was a little bit cut off at the end of the video, but Mima was advising not to follow the trend, but follow where your passion is to create your own jewelry. I hope you enjoyed the video. For more information about Mima, you can see the description below. I have her website and her information. Thank you, and see you next.